This week, it's time for a turkey. No, it's not Thanksgiving. It's security money. The Security Weekly 25 Index hits its third consecutive all-time high. In our second segment, we welcome Jason Garbus, Chief Product Officer from AppGate, to discuss how to build your zero trust architecture with stronger, simpler access controls. Business Security Weekly starts now.
This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where we explore the business of security to improve the security of business. Your trusted source for actionable insights on leadership, communication, and innovation. Get ready for Business Security Weekly. Cyber risk and compliance automation is finally here. Legacy GRC systems cannot support the powerful, real-time automation and oversight that organizations require to take risks that matter to succeed. CyberSync continuous control automation ingests data from the IT GRC stack to update controls against regulatory requirements and risks in real time, delivering insights and visibility. See how members of the Fortune 500 are saving millions annually by visiting securityweekly.com/cybersync. Let's face it, cyber attackers have the advantage. Extra Hop is on a mission to help you take it back. Regain the upper hand with security that can't be undermined, outsmarted, or compromised. When you don't have to choose between protecting your business and moving it forward, that's security uncompromised. See how it works in the full product demo, free online at securityweekly.com/extra hop. People require access from anywhere to resources everywhere, but legacy security is ill-equipped for today's hybrid organization. AppGate SDP delivers zero trust network access for hybrid workforces and workloads, empowering trusted users with secure, frictionless connections to only what they need. Make your attack surface invisible and reduce time to provision by 91% with AppGate SDP, a leader in the 2021 Forrester ZTNA New Wave. Learn more at securityweekly.com/appgate.
Welcome back, or welcome to Business Security Weekly. We're not back yet. This is episode number 236, recorded October 18th, 2021. I am your host, Matt Alderman, here in Colorado. Joining me is my first co-host. Welcome back, Mr. Albuquerque.
It's good to be back. A little bit of PTO last week. Spent some nice fall time with the kids and the wife. Apple picking, getting pumpkins, all that happy fall stuff in New England. So, you know what, though? Yeah, all that green behind Mr. Ben, that's because his Cowboys took out the Patriots. So I'm a little disappointed on my Sunday, but I think you had a bad weekend too, didn't you, Matt?
Oh yeah, I had a bad weekend. Ever since Teddy got hurt, man, that offense just cannot score. It just
I feel you.
bad.
I feel you.
Yeah.
But Ben's Cowboys won, so he's in a good
Yes,
place.
and my second co-host for the day, Mr. Ben Carr, the big winner. Oh, you're muted, Ben.
I had the mute on. Well, it's a Monday, right? You gotta roll with what happens. Yep, got the money behind me. Ready for the money segment, Matt? Look forward to talking through it.
This is your first money segment, so I'll give you a little context before we get started. It also gives everybody a refresher of what it is that I do on a quarterly basis. First, a couple announcements. InfoSec World 2021 is proud to announce its keynote lineup for this year's event. Hear from Robert Herkovic, plus heads of security at the NFL, TikTok, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Stanford University, and more. Plus, Security Weekly listeners save 20% on digital pass registration. Visit securityweekly.com/ISW 2021 to register now. Also, Security Weekly Unlocked will be held in person this December 5th through 7th at the Hilton Lake Buena Vista. Keynotes from Alyssa Miller, John Strand, Leslie Carhart, and Dave Kennedy. Visit securityweekly.com/unlock to register and check out our rockstar lineup. All right, so context, Ben. This show I created when I came over to Security Weekly full-time after the Layered Insight acquisition. And I thought it would be a really interesting segment to track both the public and the private markets on a quarterly basis to see how they're doing. And I said, well, how would I track it? Like, how would I compare it? So I created an index, my own kind of index of the top 25 pure play security companies. So, for example, Cisco's not in the index because they're not a pure play cybersecurity company. They came from the networking side. So I started tracking the stock prices of these originally 25 companies. It's grown a little since then. Back all the way back to July 25th of 2018. So I have over 3 years worth of stock data. And then every quarter I kind of update it to see how it's doing. I compare it to the NASDAQ because it's our most appropriate index to compare to. So that's how it started. So now what I do is I update it every quarter and we can do this. So what's always interesting about the index is we've seen a number of acquisitions of public companies that go back private. And we had another one last quarter with Proofpoint. Proofpoint got bought by Thoma Bravo. They stopped trading on August 30th. So I had to find a replacement. So the first decision point I have to make is, okay, who am I going to replace them with? Now, remember, we had 3 IPOs last quarter. We had KnowBe4, we had Sentinel One, and there was one other one. Darktrace. All went public last quarter. So I had at least 3 to choose from. And that's not including the ones that went public even before that. So part of my criteria is I want to find somebody that's kind of equivalent in their market cap. And because otherwise, when I rebalance the index, it
keeps some balance to it.
I try to keep some balance to it, right? Because otherwise it overweights a certain stock over another one. So like Sentinel One comes out with this like $10 billion valuation. Proofpoint was only at like $5 billion. So that would have thrown the index way off. So I ended up replacing them with KnowBe4 because they were about $3.5 billion. That was the closest one I could find that kind of fit. Plus, Proofpoint in the email security also had some security awareness components to it. KnowBe4 also kind of fits the gap of a similar type company, really being on the security awareness side. So that was my first change.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So then I have to rebalance the entire index. The other thing, so people know, when a stock isn't traded anymore, my formula breaks. So I use the Google Finance formula in my Google Doc to pull the stock prices. So when the stock stops trading, I have to manually go back and fill in all the historical price points so the index calculates correctly. So this Friday, I spent like 2 hours updating the index just so I could get everything to update correctly for today's show. So anyways. Okay, so couple quick things. So all those changes, where'd the index end up? So I think the most interesting thing for me is on Friday, the index closed at another all-time high. Now, as Jason knows, the last 2 times we've done this show, that Friday before, it's closed at an all-time high. So the index is sitting at 3,033 and 34 cents. When I built the index, I baselined it at 1,000. That means we're up 203% since I created this index back in 2018, up to 203%. I mean, that's huge. Like investment thesis, anybody? Just crazy.
Yeah, well, if you knew what you knew then, now.
No, exactly right. I didn't realize that at the time. So I'd be up like 203% if I bet my own index. So my comparison point is the NASDAQ, as you can imagine. So the NASDAQ closed at 14,897 and 34 cents. That's an increase of 124.52%. That is nothing to sneeze at. That is a great return. Mm-hmm. But you can see that the Security Weekly 25 index is doing a little better. Now, the NASDAQ did hit an all-time high of 15,374 and 33 cents. During the quarter, it just didn't close at that high. We've had a couple corrections in the market over the past few weeks as there's been some worries about inflation. There's been some worries about the Evergrande fallout in China. So the broader index took
there's been a lot of fluctuation in the market recently, right?
Yeah,
a lot of volatility. Oh, for sure. All right. I also go through all the individual earnings reports every quarter for the top 25. And I put in both their estimated and actual earnings per share and revenue. So again, I've got like 3 years of quarterly data also, so I can go back and do overtime comparisons. But what I kind of do is I want to understand how did the earnings reports actually fare compared to the estimates. So the first thing is revenue beat on average by 3.46% across the board. Now, this is normally in that range. It's usually 2 to 3%. Revenue, you usually see a smaller upside hit, kind of overage here, usually in the 2 to 3% range. 3.46% is actually up. It's a little high compared to past quarters. But again, we continue to outperform the estimates from the different analysts out there as an industry as a whole, which I think is a very positive thing. Earnings beat by 29.17%, which is also up from last quarter. Again, 25% is kind of typical. So what's interesting to me is as expectations rise for the cybersecurity industry, we're also seeing performance still above those rising expectations. So as a whole, I think our industry is pretty healthy.
Yeah, I think that's borne out, right? I mean, I think we're seeing that in hiring trends, right? There's still a lot of hiring going on in cyber. The market really hasn't decreased, and so I think where we maybe saw other industries getting impacted much stronger by COVID, I don't think that we're seeing that. And in fact, if anything, I think we're seeing a doubling down and more investment in cyber. So I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing those on the earnings side.
Yeah, agreed. Jason, did you have a comment in there? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say I think it's coupled with the support that we've been getting from the federal government as well, right? I mean, I think they're helping support our industry. I think they're helping drive some of that growth. What we've seen coming out of the administration lately, I think lends to that investment that we're seeing.
Yeah, and what we're starting to see also is we've seen IPOs pick back up, right? Mm-hmm. So like I said, we had 3 last quarter with Darktrace, KnowBe4, and SentinelOne. We had another one this quarter. ForgeRock came out on September 16th on the NASDAQ. Offer price was 25, opened at 35, closed at 36.50, settled out on Friday at 33.82. So again, another really good IPO last quarter out of the gates, and in a space I like because it's identity. Again, it's one of those areas I love, and it's a great IPO.
Yeah, no, the identity space is definitely picking up, and I mean that was just spectacular to watch. I mean, that ForgeRock, last year their sales were up like 55%. So just to watch that happen was incredible.
Yeah, for sure. Ben.
No, same. Yeah, I was just saying, I think you're going to see more of that, right? I don't think we've seen contraction or pullbacks, right? We haven't seen anybody kind of pull back from an IPO. So I think, I'm expecting that to just keep moving forward into 22.
Yeah. We also had one in Q4. We had one last week. So I put it in here because GitLab went public. And I don't know how much you guys know about GitLab, but GitLab's done some really interesting stuff. Mm-hmm. David Dunk is over there. Ben, he used to work with us over at Tenable.
I didn't know Dunk went over there.
Yeah, he went over there. And GitLab was a sponsor on Application Security Weekly. And what I thought was interesting is GitLab was integrating security tools into the CI/CD pipeline through their process side. And so what you had was not only a DevOps tool driving the continuous integration, continuous development pipeline, but also integrating security, static checks, dynamic checks, other checks in the pipeline. So it's an interesting play because you could debate whether these guys are a pure play security company, but their IPO, dude, off the charts. So they priced it at 77. They raised it to 77. It opened at $94.25, closed the day of the IPO at 103.89, closed on Friday at 115 a share. That's a huge IPO.
Yeah, really strong.
It's incredible. And all in the shadows of GitHub, right? I mean, with the Microsoft acquisition, this is all in the shadows of GitHub. So it just shows the value add that GitLab's bringing to the table. And the question is security that differentiator?
Could be. Yeah,
I think
very
it is.
much could be.
I think it is.
Yeah, it is a unique approach to integrate security right in as part of the process, and I thought it was, and it's telling when you see this IPO coming out at this kind of valuation. I thought it was a very interesting one. Ben, sorry.
I just think that's going to be a big driver, right? I mean, the whole integrating it closer into the pipeline, more into the DevOps stack. I think that's going to be really key for organizations moving forward. I was just on a call where we were talking about how, a lot of the old methods, kind of legacy application of security is just changed and doesn't work the same anymore. So I think the more forward thinking and the more forward leaning these companies are into it, I expect to see a lot of investment in that space.
Yeah, for sure. Now, there was an interesting merger and acquisition. I don't know if everybody caught this or not, but Norton LifeLock and Avast decided to merge. Now, LifeLock's
taking out the competition. What's going on there?
Right. So think about this for a second. So Norton LifeLock is in my index, right? Yeah. They merge with Avast. They're still listed as Norton LifeLock. So did Norton buy Avast, or because they call it a merger and M&A?
Yeah. But it was an $8 billion deal, wasn't it? I mean, it was a massive deal.
Yeah, it's big. And it's just like, you think about all the things that have happened in the antivirus space. You think about McAfee, right? First it was Symantec and Norton split, right? Okay. Yep. So first you split, you sell the Symantec enterprise business unit to Broadcom. Norton, the consumer product, stays. Then McAfee comes out in an IPO and then turns around and sells its enterprise products to STG. Now you have Norton merging with Avast. It's like, there's just something weird about this market.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I don't know. We'll see what that strategy is. Again, when I first looked at this, I'm just like, they're just trying to take out some competition. But the deal is huge. Like I said, I think it was $8 billion.
Yeah, gigantic. All right, now we go to the private side. So I also go through and try to update, what kind of investments happened last quarter. And I get all this data from Enterprise Security Weekly, by the way, because I can't keep up with the news cycle like I used to. And what I do is, so on Friday, I went through all the enterprise security news segments from last quarter to see what kind of funding happened, because they track it every week. So it's a great source for me to kind of validate what's been happening in the market. And some of these top deals, they're crazy. So just so you guys know, I don't track any deal anymore under 20 million, because 20 million seems to be kind of like the minimum bar now. When people are coming out, even in a Series A, like I remember us having this conversation a couple years ago, a Series A between $5 to $7 million. I mean, they're 10 plus million. A lot of them are 20 plus million now. It's crazy what Series A valuations have done. So tracking anything under 20 million, I couldn't list them all if I were tracking them under 20.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you can't throw a rock without hitting millions right now, right? If you're looking for investment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the list, Matt, I mean, it's interesting to see Arctic Wolf here again, right? And we've talked about them before in the past, and they're doing something right, especially when, we're looking at some of the worst rated that we had in SecureWorks. So, that whole SOC as a service, they're doing something right, no doubt about it. And maybe they're pulling some of the clients from SecureWorks, but they're on the list again.
They are. And I was actually talking to a financial analyst. So I have a lot of guys in the field, and every once in a while they call me up to kind of like pick my brain about different stocks, right? And so this advisor was in ForgeRock. So he was like, yeah, I can't wait for the IPO. I think this is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
But he's also been looking at other investments. And he asked me about Arctic Wolf. And I said, look, they're a sponsor. We're doing some research for them right now. I think they're a great company. And I said, but when you look at somebody like a SecureWorks in the public market that doesn't get rated very well by the analysts at all, the question is, what would Arctic Wolf look like in the public market, right? Just because there's usually with an MSSP, you've got some higher cost structures because of people, but they're doing something right because they keep raising money, and there's a lot of eyes on what they're doing right now.
Yeah, big time. And I know them from relationships, with my organizations, and I'll tell you, their customer satisfaction is through the roof. So, it could be quality of, a combination of quality of talent, the way they design, I'll call it a fusion team, but it's like, a little fusion team they have around every one of their customers. And then just their customer sat is always impeccable. So I think it's that combination that's making them extremely successful right now.
That's great. I mean, a couple other ones on this list. SNCC, another $300 million. That's a
Right.
huge. That's a huge
Yep.
round, right? I mean, just big. Netscope, $300 million. Now, Netscope's been around for a while. They're getting to Sentinel-1 territory. It's like, when do you go public? Because they've raised a number of rounds and some big rounds over the years, like Sentinel-1 did. And if Sentinel-1's any indicator, Netscope could be getting ready for an IPO because they've raised a couple big rounds lately too. Cyber Reason was $275 million. Cyber Reason underwrites our CISO Stories podcast. That was a great round for them, and I know they're going to put more emphasis here in North America and really grow the North American market. BitSight was $250 million. I mean, just those deals alone. I mean, there's over $1 billion in those top four right there.
Yep, no doubt. And I think Attack IQ's been on our list before, haven't they?
Oh yeah. Yep. A few of these have. Yeah, just some great raises here. Also some great acquisitions out of the private sector. Neustar getting acquired by TransUnion for $3.1 billion. That's a big number, guys. I mean, for a private company to get picked up for over $1 billion, that's a really good exit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now what's TransUnion in this for, right? I mean, go out there and buy Neustar and leverage their technology. I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, right? Because Neustar, how it fits into the whole fraud, credit. It's a very
Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. Risk IQ gets acquired by Microsoft for $500 million. Now that's that kind of set the bar until the Neustar acquisition, right? It was like that was a great exit for Risk IQ. Insights got $335 million from Rapid7 to bring in that threat intelligence platform. Good number. I was an investor in Accurix. I was an advisor. They got picked up by Tenable for $160 million. Again, Sachin, great exit there. I mean, the last company, Ben, that Sachin ran was Layered Insight, which Qualys picked up, but nowhere near that number. I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Great acquisitions. I didn't, going through the list, I mean, some really interesting companies got acquired. Capsulate got picked up. They're on the container security, kind of the cloud workload protection. Former sponsor gets picked up by Sophos. Sophos has made some very interesting investments on the application container side of the house. They did some innovation there, but then picking up Capsulate gives them, I think, some additional intellectual property. That was a very interesting acquisition. That was on the heels of the Refactor acquisition by Sophos as well. So Sophos was pretty active last quarter acquiring companies.
Yeah. One that stood out to me was F5. F5 getting into the cloud game now, right? I mean, typically being that that networking type company, now starting to get into the cloud security side of the aisle, trying to diversify, I think.
Yes. Very interesting. Risk Sense, which I know extremely well, gets picked up by Avanti. Disrupt the Ops, that's Mike Rothman and team, got picked up by Firemon. That's a really interesting. That one's really interesting to me because Disrupt Ops being more on kind of the DevOps side of the house, being picked up by Firemon, which is a traditional log management platform. That one, you can see Firemon trying to expand some capabilities there. That was a really interesting marriage there, I thought, because I always look to see, like, how does it fit and expand the existing portfolio of a company? Yeah. And that Firemon acquisition of Disrupt Ops was interesting.
Right. Yeah, and then Booz Allen Hamilton taking on the forensic auditing company, right? That TracePoint company. That's their business, right? It's forensic auditing.
Yeah, I mean, well, Booz Allen does a lot of different things. You kind of put them in the same category as Accenture, and even
Right.
Deloitte's been doing some interesting stuff in the space. I think last quarter they made an interesting acquisition. So you got some of these consulting firms that are looking to expand capabilities. Well, forensics and audit is a really good one for them in their consulting businesses. So that one kind of makes sense to me.
It aligns really well.
Yeah, they just go out there and buy a practice, buy a company, start a practice.
Right, exactly. I think that's it. I mean, that's the highlights from last quarter. I thought it was a really interesting quarter. Again, just 3 quarters in a row, we hit that high. Even with the dips, even with the crazy little dips in the market that we had a few weeks ago, just to have 3 quarters in a row of record highs. Just we're in a good industry, fellas.
That's it.
No signs of change in that either, right? I mean, that trajectory is still on track. I mean, I don't see where I would have any cautionary concerns about that either.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing given everything going on that's the case.
Yeah, that's true. I think the good news for cybersecurity is it transcends the pandemic, which means there's plenty of upside in this industry. I will keep my eyes on it. We'll do this again next quarter. So we're going to take a quick break and then welcome Jason Garbus from Appgate.